realizing, with growing despair, that we are maybe not going to beat this game tonight. If we want to do all of the companion quests and whatnot. Please help me find my daughter. She ran away from home. She is human in her early 20s with short blonde hair and data chat. She was last seen wearing a light blue dress. This is not exactly the place to be looking for missing kids. How did you even get in here? I paid good money to get on here. I was told you people could help. If you've got the new yen, you came to the right place. I sent you a number that you can reach me at. The old help me find my missing kid routine. A classic. My money is on escaped wage slave. Make sure you do your homework, Ruby. Yeah, having to read it out loud definitely slows down getting through the story. Absolutely it does. Anyone have a good backup plan for when you get stuck with the tracer? Barely managed to bug out of my apartment after a Corp hit squad came knocking. Lesson learned, pat yourself down a couple times and make sure you don't have a tail. But if I miss something, I'd rather keep my safe houses, you know, safe. I've had good luck with RF blockers. I have a jamming grid set up near my safe house. It projects any signals to a few miles away where I've got some cameras placed. So when someone shows up there, I know they were trying to find me, then I do a thorough sweep to find the tracker. Sharp. How long does that go on before they give up? Usually rule of threes. I keep reprojecting the signal to different locations. In my experience, they give up after the third one is a dead end and stop listening to that RF signal. Okay, time for more fun times with Glory, I think. Hey, babe. Glory's pallid face lights up at your approach. A genuine smile spreads across her lips. Novacat, good to see you. You too, Glory. How are things with you? She pauses for a moment, considering. You know what? I'm happy, actually. For the first time in a long time. I have you to thank for that. Are you ready to tell me about that chrome you're sporting? Be patient, Novacat. The explanation for that is coming. A look of unease flits across her face. I'm not sure that you're going to like it, though. You needed time, and I gave you time. Are you ready to talk about Feuerstelle yet? Yeah. Gloria looks troubled, more so than you've ever seen her before. Whatever memories she's dredging up must be exceedingly painful. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't been looking forward to this, but yeah, it's time. Novacat, look, I'm about to tell you some things about myself that might change your opinion of me. It's entirely possible that you're going to hate me based on what's coming up next. I've accepted that, and if that's what happens, I sincerely believe that I deserve it. She looks you in the eye, her expression grim. So tell me, are you sure that you want to keep pushing forward with this? This is important for you, Glory. After everything we've been through, I think that we both know that. Whatever you have to tell me, I'm ready to listen. Thanks, Novacat. Thanks for being a friend. So, when we left off last time, I had just moved from the streets of Tübingen to the warm, inviting confines of Feuerstelle. Marta and I were happy there for a little while, and Harrow embraced me as a long-lost daughter. I should probably take a moment to talk more about Harrow. He's going to be an important figure in the story. I don't know what his age was. He seemed old enough to be paternal, but young enough to hang with the kids on something like a peer level. Best guess, I'd say he was in his mid-20s. He was handsome and well-built, with a neatly trimmed beard and thick brown hair. And there was something else about him. Something uncanny. Harrow had this charisma, this raw, magnetic attraction that just made people latch on to him. I saw it over and over. All it took was a few words and a pat on the shoulder, and Harrow would have a new convert. The other kids at the farm followed him around like lost puppies. As much as I loved Marta, and as much as I thought she loved me, we forgot all about one another when Harrow was around. All that we wanted was to be close to him, to be a part of his inner circle, and soon enough, we were. For a girl of 17, it was all terribly exciting. Harrow had these rules of living that he would teach us, rules about self-determination and the importance of disobedience. He claimed to have taught classes at the University of Berlin, which he painted as a mix between an early paradise and an anarchist playground. An earthly paradise, rather. He told us how Furestel would be the focal point of a new movement for the children of the fatherland. He told us that we were special. We ate it up, of course. We were kids. For those of us in the inner sanctum, Harrow would share even more. He had power the likes of which I had never seen. Not my father's drunken fists or my own childish experiments, but genuine, incredible power. He said that it came from the Horned God, an ancient deity that he venerated. He knew about my latent abilities right away, and he offered to teach me. Naturally, I accepted. I've heard of the Horned God. His followers have a poor reputation, especially among women. Any bad reputation that they might have gained is well-deserved. But there was more to it than that, as you'll see. Glory sighs. Hang with me, Novacat. Rough waters ahead. So I became Harrow's apprentice. He taught me to channel magic and summon spirits. He taught me rituals and pagan traditions, Machiavellian philosophy and Nietzschean ethics. Above all, he taught me to connect with his Horned God, and through it I learned power and arrogance. And it was all downhill from there. For the next few years, I lived at Furestel as Harrow's enforcer and right-hand girl. I was also his sometimes wife and concubine, but that was a distinction that I shared with all of the girls in the commune, including my beloved Marta. I came to learn that she'd been his long before she met me, but by that point, I didn't care. I'd embraced the rules of living. I was Harrow's creature through and through. I didn't ask questions, and I walked the path that was in front of me. Other fun facts about those years. I learned cruelty. I had power now, and my new idol encouraged me to use it. Harrow did the same. Any children who didn't pull their weight were subjected to my tender mercies, and I was anything but tender. I took what I wanted rather than asking for it. I liked it. It was fun. I also came to learn that Harrow's Horned God was not the icon first worshipped by throwback cults across Germany. It was certainly a god with horns, but it came from an altogether different tradition. Care to hazard a guess? The devil? In the magically active community, we refer to it as the adversary. But yeah, same being, more or less. So my idol, the ancient deity that was feeding me my power, was the antithesis of everything that is right and good. And you know what? I didn't care. In our time together, Harrow and I committed more atrocities than I could count. At this point, I was onto all of his tricks. I knew that Furestel was nothing more than a honey trap, carefully designed to lure local children into my master's clutches. I knew that the kids who seemed resistant to Harrow's brainwashing techniques wound up fertilizing the garden. I knew that Harrow's entire manifesto was bullshit. And I knew that through it all, Harrow and the adversary were laughing, because I was laughing right there beside him. Not Goblins, Cookie. Satan. I don't want to pin the blame for my decisions on anyone but me. That said, I would like to posit that my father's connection to the Crusaders might have helped play into my willingness to serve the adversary. In my warped, indoctrinated little brain, I equated the church with evil, so the opposite of that, I figured, had to be, well, if not good, then at least not totally bad. But I was kidding myself, of course. My new deity was the very definition of bad. Serving it made me bad. End of story. I disagree with you, Glory. I don't think that any of this was your fault. Harrow is the one who deserves the blame. And what if he was indoctrinated into the service of the adversary when he was my age? Would he not be at fault anymore either? She shakes her head. No, Novacat. Harrow certainly deserves some of the blame for what I became. Maybe even most of it. But personal responsibility has to come into the equation somewhere. I made my own choices, and they were horrible ones. I've accepted that. You should too. Glory pauses for a moment to collect herself. She looks haggard, and her pale cheeks are flushed blood red. She swallows hard, then pushes forward. Anyway, one day, Harrow invited me on a field trip. To Stuttgart. Over the years that I was at Furestel, the commune had easily doubled in size. It was thriving, all thanks to the efforts of Marta and the girls like her. Harrow would send the girls out to neighboring cities to lure in the street kids that nobody would miss. He targeted children because they were easy to indoctrinate and because nothing makes the adversary happier than the corruption of the innocent. As we drove out to pick up the new recruits, I was already planning ahead. It was a foregone conclusion that I would pay my father a visit. The irony of a group of cruise ritters getting immolated by a genuine servant of the actual devil tickled me to no end. So, when Harrow stopped to fill up on diesel, I hopped out of the van and headed out on foot to my parents' place. Harrow wasn't overly concerned about my absence. I had long since reached the point where I could assert my autonomy, and he knew that I'd be back. I wound up at my folks' house sometime around noon. I could hear the adversary whispering in my ear, telling me what to do. I'd long since learned to listen to its voice. It always rewarded me with extra power when I did its bidding. It told me to knock, so I did. As the door opened, I could feel a torrent of flames welling up in the astral plane all around me. It told me to channel them into the doorway, and to my father, so I did. But, of course, the person who opened the door wasn't my father. It was my mother. As I watched her flesh blacken and melt, as I heard her scream and I broke into hysterics, I heard the adversary laugh. And at that moment, I realized that it was laughing at me. I'm so sorry, Glory. Glory nods, a grim expression on her delicate face. Thanks. We're almost to the end now. Thanks for sticking with me. It was like a lever had been pulled. All at once, the bubble popped. I wasn't a powerful servant of the adversary. I was not Harrow's #1 girl. I was a ridiculous little fool who'd willingly tied her soul to the worst thing in existence. Realizing all of this was one thing. Actually fixing it was something else entirely. I knew that I had to get away from Harrow. That was the first thing to do. So I bit my lip and did my best to ignore the happy babble of the new recruits and the trip back to Furestal, and I managed to get through the ride without screaming. Once we were back at the commune, I broke into Harrow's safe, stole all of the commune's resources, and ran. I don't know when Harrow realized what I'd done, or whether he even cared. All that I know is that nobody came after me, so I kept running and running until I got to Berlin. Getting past the wall was fairly simple. You know how easy it is to obtain falsified papers. The biggest obstacle that I faced during my flight was the adversary itself. I could run from Harrow, but how do you run from something that's tied to your own soul? Oh, God, Glory. The haunted look in Glory's eyes is heartbreaking. She gives you another curt, grim nod. I walked into the office of the first street doc I could find, pointed at all of the biggest, bulkiest pieces of cyberware that he had on display, and told him to put them into me. He tried to upsell me on better merchandise, arguing that what I was asking for was old and inefficient, better suited to be installed in a museum than in a body. He told me that I'd be shredding my essence, and that once it was gone, I'd never be able to get it back. I stuck to my guns. After all, shredding my essence was the whole point. Gloria looks up at you. Her eyes are sunken and hollow, and the aura of loss about her is palpable. She looks like a woman who has been through hell. That's all for now, Novacat. You've heard the tale. You know why I am the way I am. You know the things I've done and how much I have to atone for. If you still want my company, fine. If I've lost your friendship, I understand that too. But for now, I need to be alone. Man. Glory's entire scenario is, like, I think one of the best things in any of these games, honestly. No, we're going to, the bar, right? Der Weinkeller. We're not talking to Lucky Strike, are we? Where's Ager? Oh, over here. Yeah. Glory's whole story is, like, a huge bummer. The dwarf has a distinctly Eurasian appearance. He peers up at Ager through almond-shaped eyes. The rest of his broad face is dominated by strong Slavic features. He nods to himself and puts down his mug of soy calf. On the edge of the table, a plate of day-old pie cools in a haze of cigarette smoke. Hoy, Ager. Been a long time. He taps a thumb on the rim of his coffee cup. Keep him busy? You could say that. Novacat, this is Bannock. He's a friend. The dwarf scoffs. Don't know if I'd go that far. Nothing personal, you understand. If I were to start keeping friends, I might call you one. But in my experience, friendship and obligation go hand in hand. A solitary life is cleaner. She smiles. Professional acquaintance, then. The dwarf nods. Better. Now, let's get down to business, shall we? Let's. We need intel on the engineer. Where he's staying, who he's working for, how long he's been in Shot Nest. Whatever you got, we want it. He spears a hunk of pie with his fork, crams it into his mouth, and starts to chew. A moment later, he shrugs. I've had worse. And of course, I'll give you what I can, but I don't know much. I can point you in the right direction, that's all. Just tell us what you can. We'll handle the heavy lifting. The dwarf nods and fumbles in his jacket pocket for something. A moment later, he produces a weathered paper map and spreads it on the table. Alright, what you're looking at is the northwest quadrant of Shot Nest. This is gang territory. All of it. These days, the whole Kiaz is being run by Rambach. I've had a run-in with Rambach before. We can handle them. Wouldn't be so sure about that if I were you. The guy that filled the power vacuum when their last leader bid it is a real piece of work. But hey, maybe you're right. I hope so, for your sake. He stabs a meaty finger down on the faded silhouette of a building. This warehouse right here is Rambach HQ, and that's where the engineers stay. Wonderful. Ager exhales heavily. If he's staying there, he must be arranging some sort of deal with them. That'd be the safe bet, and they haven't pulled their guns on him yet, so it's fair to assume that negotiations are going well. I am sure that I don't have to tell you this, but the last thing we need is an alliance between some foreign syndicate and a Rambach. No good could come from that. Can't argue with that. Now, I can't tell you who the engineer is working for. You'll have to ask him about that yourself. But what I can do is make it easier for you to have a sit-down with him. Bannock reaches under the table and brings up a canvas bag. He places it in front of you and pushes it forward. Don't open that in here. There are people in this room that would kill you for what's in that bag. Look in the bag. Wrapped in an old cotton shirt, you find a gadget about the size of a water pistol. It has a rubberized grip and a hair trigger, and it looks something like a futuristic taser gun. What you're looking at is a cyberware deactivator. It's a one-shot tool that can temporarily disable cybernetic devices. I had it shipped here at great personal expense from a supermax prison in the UCAS. He traces a twirl in the air with a fork. The warden owed me a favor. Ager whistles appreciatively. Very nice, Bannock. That should make this easy. Not easy. Possible. I wouldn't be giving it to you if the job could be done without it. The engineer is rocking a Delta-grade move-by-wire system. Unless you can shut it down, there's no way in hell you're going to catch him. And if we do shut it down, he'll be forced into a state of permanent seizure. He shrugs. Only until he gets the thing up and running again. Deactivated isn't the same thing as broken. The dwarf shovels another heaping fork full of pie into his mouth. He chews thoughtfully. Until then, his life will be a living hell, but I can think of worse things to use as a bargaining chip. Remember, you need to know who he works for. The more you can take him out of his comfort zone, the better. That's handy. Making people uncomfortable is my specialty. Truer words have never been spoken. Thanks, Bannock. We'll let you know how things work out. Don't bother. I'll be watching. Alright. Oh, wow, a bot. Cool. Yeah, no shit, this is a suspicious user, Twitch. No shit, obviously. Why did Seribot not automatically ditch that? Weird. Alright, let's go on a mission. Ager's not following me anymore, but whatever. Just the two of us. I'm sure this is gonna go great and not terrible. It happens pretty often. Normally, like, moderation bots, like, catch them, like, the moment the message goes through, but Seribot's snoozing. Sorry if my drinking is loud. Shot Nest, the kiosk next door to the Cruise Bazaar, and an object lesson in Anarchy Gone Wrong. Violent gangs rule the street here, trading territory to the roar of gunfire. The streets are a war zone. As dangerous as Shot Nest already is, it could be worse. The gangs are vicious but disorganized. They pose little risk to their neighbors. With little more than a makeshift barricade and a few volunteers, the Cruise Bazaar has successfully insulated itself from the chaos of its neighboring kiosks. The engineer could change all of that. He has to be stopped, and the F-State as a whole needs to be alerted to what his clients are trying to do. It's up to you and Ager to make sure that that happens. Yeah, we should be good. Should be good. I have karma. How much do I have? 2. Why even bother telling me that I have 2 karma? As you near the edge of the Cruise Bazaar, the familiar piss and asphalt stench of Shot Nest crawls into your nostrils and sticks in the back of your throat. The dilapidated husks of burnt-out vehicles loom above you, giving the place an air of menace. I was hoping I'd put this place behind me after the Humanist run. Yeah, I'm with you there. She wrinkles her nose. The funny thing is, a syndicate presence might actually help Shot Nest, in the short term at least. They'd clean up the streets if nothing else. Don't tell me you're changing your mind. Not for a second. A syndicate, any syndicate, in Shot Nest would be a disaster for the Cruise Bazaar. Let the people on the other side of the gate deal with their own problems. I won't allow my home to be endangered for their sake. Fair? The lady selling food isn't here anymore. Oh, but the guard is. Same guy, too. You again. Well, you ignored my warning last time and you ain't dead, so I guess you can handle yourself. He sighs. Let him through, Sergey. Thanks, bye. This area is very neat. Cardboard box. The cardboard box is filled with makeshift bedding. A homeless person must be using it to keep warm at night. Search the box. You find a basic, uncertified cred stick underneath the pillow. Nah. That would make me feel bad. Whoa, why is the music here, like, going so hard? Oh, wait, hold on. Rambuck gang up ahead. Maybe there's a way around? Hello? Who are you? Are you nobody? I mean, don't we want to deal with the Rambuck gang? Oh, I guess no. We're just here specifically for the engineer, right? Maybe, like, an unnecessary firefight would alert him that we're here, and that wouldn't be good. Oh! Hi! Hello! Man, the music here fucks, though. Like, it's got a damn good beat to it, right? Owie! My bones. Wow. Ow. Oh, hi. I think we're doing okay. Yep, doing fine. Okay. Nobody in there. We gotta slice the pie when we get in there. Oh, actually. Let's, also... Hi. There's a... Oh. That's a conjurer, probably. Ow! Shit. Are you for fucking real? Ah, there we go. Gotta get you out of cover. Probably heal Ager. Ow! Oh, come on! That's bullshit. Hello. Hi. Ow! Die. Is there anybody else? That's locked. Streets? Hey, man. How do I use this? Extremely close range? That is annoying. Because my movement isn't the highest ever. Bro. What do you mean not enough AP? Oh, because I need one. Hold on. We're just going to run ahead of him, actually. We also don't have anything that can, like, limit his movement. Ow. Ow! Fuck all the way off. There we go. Oh, oh, shut up. What? I'm... Once again, XCOM level bullshit. Constantly. I can just walk up to him. There. Help me drag this guy back to the warehouse. We're going to find out what he knows. Hell yeah, we do it. The engineer lies splayed out on the ground, his body trembling violently. Ager shoves a bottle up his nose and squeezes. The engineer shudders violently, then the trembling begins to subside. She glares at you. Aerosol BZD to help treat the seizures. Bannock was kind enough to include it in his goodie bag. It won't last long, but it should give Yuli here enough muscle control to answer a few questions. The engineer's voice comes out in a trembling stutter. Fuck you, troll. Ager raises an eyebrow. See? He's already talking. The engineer's eyes burn with hate. Beads of sweat dot his brow as he struggles to control the tremors that rack his body. He takes a deep breath, holds it, and releases it slowly. The trembling begins to subside. Just punch him in the gut. The wind explodes out of the orc's lungs as your fist slams into his belly. His breath stinks of harissa and garlic. After a few panicked seconds, he manages to gasp out a word. Bitch! Hit him again. Language! You slam your fist into the bridge of the engineer's nose. His head whips back, then comes forward again. A glob of phlegm splatters against your chest. The engineer cackles at you, a malevolent grin on his face.
You sucker punched me before, okay. I admit I was not ready.
His voice sounds stronger now. The start of that martyr speech has almost completely faded away.
Now I am. And you, my darling dwarf, are weak. A word of advice that I will give you. You'd best kill me here. I mean it.
He fixes his gaze on you.
Because if I ever get off of this floor, I'll snap you in half like a twig. And then I'll do the same to your she-troll friend.
If you did manage to get up off of that floor, you'd make it about a step and a half before you started convulsing. You're helpless, Yuli. Ager smiles. She's right, you know. You're completely at our mercy. So tell us, Yuli, whose payroll are you on? She grabs a fistful of the orc's hair and lifts his head. Her face is inches from his. Tell us who sent you to Shotten Nest. There is a long pause. Eventually, the engineer looks away.
Alright, you want to know so badly? I'll tell you. Tamanus sent me here. They want to use Shotten Nest as a base of operations in Berlin. My point of contact is a ghoul named Beetle.
He leans forward and locks eyes with Ager.
There, you've got your intel. Now set me free or kill me.
Yuli. Ager leans back, shaking her head. You wouldn't roll over on an employer this easily. Your rep tells me that much. He raises an eyebrow in a look of mock astonishment.
No?
No, Ager's right. You're jerking us around.
You wanted a name, I gave you a name. Want more, I can give you those too. I can name you 100 clients who'd love a piece of Shotten Nest. How do you intend to determine who really sent me?
I've got a couple of ideas. The engineer smirks.
You can try beating the truth out of me. You can try cutting on me. Get creative with the pliers if you like. Every time you hurt me, I'll give you a different name. Torture me or don't, it'll all end the same way. I'll be dead, you'll know nothing for certain, and my clients will move ahead on schedule.
Help us out then. If you're already dead, why care about being a snitch? He snorts.
I won't give your she-troll the satisfaction. She wants it. That's why she won't get it.
Ager's hands bunch into fists. She's still smiling, but you can feel the heat of the hatred behind her eyes. If you don't start telling me what I want to hear in the next 30 seconds, this is going to get messy.
You know, Ager,
He takes his time pronouncing the name, savors it.
I'd like to tell you a story. We share so much history, you and I.
Ager says nothing, but her eyes narrow. The engineer continues, his grin broadening.
This is a funny story. It's a story about your time in the KSK. A story about futility. I can tell you all about the many lives you've touched and how the syndicates touched them again afterward. Would you like that?
There's a long pause. Eventually, Ager turns to face you. Novacat, do me a favor. Sweep the building for intel. Anything that we might have missed on the way in. Yeah, I'm on it. Take good care of our friend here. She shoots you a disgusted look at your captive. Yeah, don't worry. I will. Okay, I'll just leave you alone with him for a little bit. I'm sure I will come back and it will be no problem. Corpse. The broken body of a human man lies on the floor. His face is a mess of fresh cuts and congealing blood, and his head is oddly deformed. Despite his wounds, his mouth is twisted into a macabre smile. Let's inspect the body. Judging by the shape of the ganger's head, you'd guess that his skull has been fractured in at least 3 places. The center of his forehead is particularly gruesome. It looks soft, as though the skin were stretched like a tent between shards of broken bone. Looking up, you can see a smear of gore on the door of the room that you found him in. The implications are clear. This man bashed his own head in trying to get out, and he did it with a smile on his face. His hands are badly broken too. You've seen these sorts of injuries after bare-knuckle fistfights, but never anything this severe. This man punched something hard and went on punching until his hands were reduced to useless slabs of meat. Huh. That seems fucked up. Oh well. You're right, Cookie. The pronunciation of macabre is so fucked up. You could almost say that the pronunciation of macabre is macabre. Ooh, a ledger. There's a small ledger lying on this crate. The cover is cheap leatherette, and the paper is tissue-thin newsprint. The pages are filled to overflowing with handwritten text. You don't recognize the language, but judging by the accent marks, you'd guess it's a Scandinavian tongue. While you can't read it, the arrangement of the text tells you that the ledger is primarily being used as an address book. Pocket it and move on. That'll be helpful, I'm sure. So good in there, Ager? That's good. Love that for you. Well, I would say that we have found about all that we're gonna find in this place. Let's go check back in with our friend, shall we? Oh wait, no, there's something here, isn't there? Is that something different? Yeah, that's a drone. I almost missed that. This generic courier drone has been snapped together out of prefab parts from a dozen different manufacturers. It's a cheap utilitarian thing, remarkable only in that it is so incredibly plain. A half-right teenager could gobble something like this together in an afternoon. The drone sits in a charging cradle, its turbofan unpowered. A cheerful green light blinks on its front panel to remind you that it's still active. You can see the silhouette of something under the flimsy plastic dome of the drone's cargo compartment. Whatever this thing was here to deliver, it's still carrying it. Ooh. You depress the catch on the container's plastic lid. Rather than swinging open, the lid slides back to reveal a touchpad. Looks as though this thing is password locked. Examine the drone more closely. Taking a closer look, you notice something strange. There's a set of electrical contact plates lining the lip of the drone's cargo compartment. It's a fair bet that this thing is outfitted with an anti-tampering system of some kind. Enter a password. Uh-oh. There's no way. Damn. Damn. What about... Can I find this password? Maybe it's on the body. Hmm. In the ledger? I can't read the ledger. I can't remember if I talked to Ager, if, I kind of locked myself out of interacting with that. I think I might. Oh, I see. As you approach, you can see that the engineer's chest is sheeted with blood. Most of it seems to be streaming from his nose, which has been crushed into a wad of bloody meat. Ager turns to face you. Her bunched fists are dripping red. Find anything? She speaks to you through clenched teeth. Her voice sounds strained, and her cheeks are flushed. Having fun? I'm not doing this for fun. I'm doing this because he deserves it. If you knew half of what this bastard has done, if you'd heard the things that he just told me, you'd do the same. Maybe so, but you're on edge and I need you calm. Beating on him isn't helping. She pauses, then turns away. Just tell me what you found.
Yes, please.
The engineer's voice is thick and wet. He smiles through a set of gore-streaked teeth.
Enlighten us.
I found this ledger. I don't recognize the language, but it looks Scandinavian. Ager leafs through the journal, quickly flipping the soy-calf-stained pages. Norwegian, maybe? I'm thinking that this is written in Bokmål. She frowns. I can't read it, but it looks like a shipping manifest. Yeah, something like that. There are a lot of addresses in there. She rifles through the pages, flipping the cheap paper with her thumbnail. Looks like addresses all the way through. Some are annotated, but I can't see any names. 2/3 of the way through the book, she stops short. Find something interesting? Wordlessly, she turns the journal around. At the top of the page, written in a different hand, is a single word. It's written in English, but you can understand it all the same. Wednesday. She nods. Yeah, not particularly helpful without a full date, but I guess it's something. Of course, Wednesday might not refer to a day of the week at all. It could be code for something. Taken out of context like this, it's impossible to say. So, what do you make of this?
This should be good.
Ager ignores him. Her gaze remains fixed on the book. It might be nothing, or it could mean that he's back in bed with the Lobachevsky Syndicate. The engineer holds his silence. Did you find anything else? We need to be sure about this before moving forward. I found a body in the other room. From the looks of him, he tried to use his head to beat down a steel reinforced door. Interesting, but not unusual in these parts. There are all kinds of drugs that can make a person act that way, and most of them aren't hard to get in a place like Shot and Nest. Have you found anything else? I must have missed something. I'll keep searching. And you continue your work, Ager, you know. Do what you gotta do, I guess. Yeah, I can't double check the body because I don't have biotech. The plastic lid of the cargo container pops open with a click. Inside, you find what appears to be a homemade SimSense chip. It sits securely in a custom-made plastic bracket. I'll take it. You pop the chip out of the bracket and pocket it. A few seconds later, an angry hissing sound comes from somewhere deep within the drone. This game's good. As you step away from the drone, the hissing sound grows into a roar. Bright white sparks spit out from the drone's melting chassis and streak across the room. You've seen this kind of reaction before. Thermite. Whoever built the drone must have wired it with a self-destruct device. Within seconds, all that's left of the little drone is a molten wreck of the charging cradle. Foul-smelling smoke pours from the remains. You steal another glance at the chip that you recovered and turn away. Let's just double-check the body just in case. Yeah, I don't think I can get anything else from it. Yeah. I think we can assume what happened to this guy, though. Like, he was probably in a BTL, and something in the BTL caused him to bash his head against the wall. You know, that's the only explanation of him doing that with a smile on his face, right? Is it like in some like simulated life? It was like, so he was doing something good. There are a pair of courier drones in the other room. No markings. They looked custom built. One of them had been slagged, but the other had this chip in its storage compartment. When you produce the chip, the engineer's eyes widen slightly. He turns his head and coughs back his body. Interesting. This means something to you, Yuli? Ager takes the chip from you and holds it up to the light. No identifying marks. I've seen enough BTLs in my time to know when I see it, but this is different. It's been modified somehow.
Go ahead and slot it, bitch. It'll take you on the ride of your life.
Ager raises an eyebrow. Smack him for me, will you? I'm busy. Hit him. Your fist connects with the ruined meat of the engineer's nose. He coughs, chokes on his own blood, and then spits a wad of it onto your chest.
You don't know what you're holding, slag.
He spits the words out like venom. His eyes are locked on the chip in Ager's hand. Slowly, he licks his lips.
You don't deserve to touch that chip.
I think that you're right, Ager. Our friend here is an addict. The engineer glances at you with a snarl.
Fuck you.
The thing is, I know our friend's rep, and I'm telling you, he's much too careful to get himself addicted to Sims. She glances at the engineer. His eyes are locked on the chip. If these things have him hooked this badly, they must be even more addictive than standard BTLs. That's a frightening thought. You're telling me the last thing that we need is more Sim junkies on our streets. She turns to face the engineer. You got anything to add to that, Yuli? Oh, really?
You have no idea how wrong you are about all of this.
He struggles to rise from the floor, but his muscles refuse to cooperate. Finally, he gives up with a scowl.
If I could move my arms, I'd take that chip from you and show you what it does.
I'm sure that you would. She glances over her shoulder at you. Good find, Novacat. We've struck a nerve. Any other thoughts? Yeah, actually. I think that I might know where the other chip went. Remember that body I found in the other room? Yeah, good thought. Go check it out, but be quick. I don't know how long it'll be before we have company here. I'm on it. There we go. I probably would have found the chip sooner if I had higher biotech. Peeling back a patch of matted hair, you find something that a casual viewer would have missed. The man had a chip jack. It's a cheap model, sufficient for loading SimSense chips and BTLs, but little else. It doesn't take much effort for you to pry it open. Inside the chip jack, you find a glob of plastic. It looks as though whatever this guy was running melted down sometime after he slotted it. A chip jack like this couldn't generate enough heat to destroy a SimSense chip. The only logical conclusion is that the chip itself was wired to melt down after use.
Ugh.
I don't like that. That sucks. The engineer's eyes remain locked on the chip. His face has gone pallid white and his shirt is drenched with sweat. His eyes bulge and his breathing is heavy. Ager glances up from your manic captive and looks you in the eye. Find what you were looking for? Yeah, I pried his chip jack open and found a blob of melted plastic inside. It was still warm to the touch. Ager examines the remnants of the chip in your fingers. I've heard of things like this before. Single-use Sims designed to self-destruct after they're slotted. Keeps the customers from reusing the same BTL over and over again. I'd say that you found our missing chip. Yeah, I agree, but the ganger who slotted this wasn't blissed out like a normal Sim junkie. It was almost the opposite. He looked wild, like a madman.
Madman!
The engineer lets out a chuckle. It's a hoarse, barking sound.
You don't know a damn thing.
I know that we have something you want, something you're willing to die for.
That there's nothing! Nothing! If you'd seen what I've seen, you would know for yourselves. The chip, it opens your eyes. Slot one and you become a god.
Ager stares at him, her expression flat. The engineer sneers.
I too was a skeptic. Then the wolf caught me, and the raven opened my eyes. And now at last I can see.
Suddenly, he lurches forward. Every muscle on his body goes tight, and the cords stand out on his neck.
Give me the chip. It was promised to me. I need it.
Tell us who you're working for, and it's all yours. The engineer spits out a mouthful of blood. It hits the tile floor with a sickening splat. He grinds his teeth and snarls out a single word.
Winter night.
There is a moment of silence. Finally, Ager speaks. Never heard of them.
Of course you haven't, bitch. If you had, you'd already be dead. They don't leave loose ends.
His body begins to tremble. It looks like the drugs are wearing off.
They have money, she-troll. Money and influence enough to put the syndicates to shame. Even I cannot say how much, but I do know that what I've seen is just the tip of the spear.
Alright, let's say that you're telling the truth, and some sort of secret society is behind this. What do they want with Shotton Nest?
They do not tell me these things. All I know is that they want to store things here. Crates, boxes, shipped in from all over. No cargo inspections and no traces back to them.
What are they shipping in? Weapons? Drugs? More of these BTLs? He eyes her incredulously.
You think that I asked them? It is not my place to know. All that I know is what was promised to me. Give me the chip.
His voice comes out in a shivering screech.
You promised.
She promised you the chip. Ager smiles at the engineer. Slowly, she pulls a knife from her belt. Its serrated edge glints in the light. I, on the other hand, didn't offer you a goddamn thing. She's got you there. Ager leans in to look the engineer in the eye. She grins. Goodbye, Yuli. She plunges her blade into the engineer's throat. The orc lets out a startled, gurgling sound, thrashes, and dies. Ager wipes her hands clean and looks up, an expression of grim satisfaction on her face. Well, that takes care of that. Thanks for the assist, Fearless Leader. No problem, but we aren't done yet. We still have Winter Night to deal with. Can't do it, Fearless Leader. The way you're suggesting is beyond the scope of our capabilities. I don't have any contacts in Norway. We wouldn't even know where to begin looking for Winter Night, and if we found them, what then? The two of us aren't going to stop an international conspiracy on our own. We're good, but we're not that good. You've got a point there. We'll let the Flux State handle it. Good call. Now, there's just one more thing that I want to do before we head back home. She gestures to the engineer's lifeless body. We still need to search the bastard. Who knows, maybe he has some additional evidence on him. Or in him. Could be that he has headwear storage. We don't know until we go digging. Alright, let's get this over with. Time passes. The job is long and unpleasant, but eventually you find something. A hidden storage compartment in one of the engineer's cyber arms. Deactivated as the cyberware is, it takes some prying to get it open. Oh, really? Oh, shit. Killing him is the more satisfying thing to do, though. Deactivated as his cyberware is, it takes some prying to get it open, but Ager leans in and puts some muscle into it. With a metallic snapping sound, the compartment yawns open. Ager reaches in and pulls out a cylindrical object about the size of a beer can. She inspects it, and a smile creeps across her face. What the hell is that? She holds the object up for your inspection. This, my friend, is a pulse grenade. The last I heard, the Russian military were developing them as crowd dispersal devices, but that was years ago. Looks like Yuli kept a memento of his time in the Spetsnaz. She examines the grenade with a critical eye. Looks like typical Russian engineering. Clunky, but functional. If I took this thing apart, I bet that I could figure out how they made it. Anything else in there? She dips her hand into the secret compartment one more time. No, not that I can... Without warning, the engineer's cyber arms begin to twitch. His body bucks convulsively while his dead eyes stare straight ahead. Ager snatches her hand back and steps backward. What the heck? The engineer's body surges forward, a violent, convulsive motion. His eyes bulge out of his skull, then his chest evaporates in a spray of light. As you watch, the chemical fire that rages from the engineer's body blackens his flesh and spits sparks across the room. It's the same reaction that you saw when the drone went up, a thermite reaction. His employers, Winter Night, they must have implanted that thing in him. Yeah, must have. I'm willing to bet that if we hadn't used the cyberware deactivator on him, he'd have gone up before he had the chance to spill any names. If you were looking for further proof, I think that this was it. Yeah, looks that way. Let's go. People need to know about this. Right you are. That's a good mission. That one's fun. And you're gonna see a pretty fucked up side of Ager. And also kind of revel in it a little bit. I did. That guy fucking sucked. The U-Bahn whisks you back towards the cruise bazaar. Ager standing by your side. The image of the engineer's body disintegrating in flame replays itself over and over in your mind. The bright flash, the shower of sparks, the overpowering stench of sizzling meat. A blue-green afterimage hangs suspended in the center of your field of vision, and it refuses to be blinked away. From what Ager told you, the engineer was a menace, an international criminal at the top of his game. And as you watched, he was consumed from within by a device that marked him as disposable. The rattle of your U-Bahn car coming to a halt shakes you from your reverie. You're home. Yeah, that's true. Ager's still very, very, very good, which speaks to how fucking good Glory and her companion mission are.